Thank you for joining us today. Francesco Davila here again with Corsa Media, and we have a very special guest, good friend, longtime Autobahn member, James Keck. James, say hello to everybody, please.
Hey, everyone.
James is not only an Autobahn member and a driver and loves to do various outdoor activities. Went to college in California.
Yep, Pepperdine University.
Pepperdine University, and you majored in?
International business and philosophy.
And philosophy. So I made fun of him earlier about the philosophy thing because the standing joke is that philosophy majors don't ever get jobs. But that is not true.
Better than an art major.
And you educated me just now. So please tell the audience what you had to say about philosophy.
Yeah, no, actually, I think I use it more maybe subconsciously than any other degree because this ability to think strategically and rationally and stuff like that, especially my background's working in software, which is a relatively technical field. Now, I don't develop software, but I can at least translate something more technical than not, or maybe than I could have before if I didn't have that training. But yeah, but to your point, yeah, being a philosophy major, maybe a philosophy grad student, you're probably going to be hungry.
That's good. So now today you're doing a little bit something different. You've graduated, a while ago, and now you're trying to find your own in the business world.
Correct.
And you've kind of come up with a new concept. And please tell us a little bit about what you're doing. Tell us about MotoBloq.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. So, software development company, and we're working on a project called MotoBloq, and essentially it's trying to imagine what the future of automotive ownership and culture will be and how that will take place in a digital world. So the best analogy is imagine Hot Wheels but digital. Now that's essentially what we offer first off, but of course we want to build more experiences with brands, with users, with collectors that are both digital and physical. But essentially it's a new way to own a car and a new way to be part of a car community.
So let me get this straight. You're going to own a digital car. So not the actual car, just a digital car. So is this like baseball cards? Like, is that the same type of mentality? I know I'm aging myself.
Yeah, no, but I think the initial part of it, or a part of it, is just like that.
Okay.
Yep.
So you're talking NFTs, right?
Correct. That's the technology behind it.
Okay.
Yep.
So people talk about blockchain, they talk about NFTs. There's a lot of misunderstandings surrounding this, and I've been learning myself a lot about NFTs. Tell us a little bit about how this works exactly. So you have this digital car, this asset that becomes yours.
Yep.
It's mine. How do I control that? How is that mine and somebody can't just make a copy?
Yeah, no, that's a good question, and that's actually inherent in the technology. It may kind of take a step back and to use a car analogy. Blockchain technology is essentially the engine that would power a vehicle or a car. And there's certain different applications that you can use blockchain technology for. Mm-hmm. So one of them is cryptocurrency. So that's someone took an engine and let's say they made it for like motorcycles, all right? And then another way thing it can do or power is owning things or NFTs. Mm-hmm. So they took the engine, they put it into a car, but still all those engines use blockchain technology. And it's what powers how you use it, or how you use it is where you get these offshoots like crypto and NFTs. But at the most simplest term, an NFT, that means a non-fungible token. Non-fungible just means it's unique. Mm-hmm. So
like a fingerprint.
Yeah, like a fingerprint, your ID card. It's unique to you. And token essentially means it's digital. So it's just something that's digital and unique. And if it's digital and unique, then you can own it because it's unique to something, to someone. So the basic thing is an NFT. It's just something digital and unique. It could be what people have seen in the past couple of years. It could be it could be an image. Mm-hmm. It could be maybe we'll talk about like a title or a deed to something, or it could be something like in a video game. But if it's digital and you want to own it, it's probably an NFT, or it should be an NFT.
That's so cool. So this is arguably potentially going to change car ownership, or that's what the hope is. Yeah. And not just car ownership like what you physically drove here in today, but something more added to the experience. Explain how this the NFT or MotoBloq can can add to the ownership experience rather than just having like, really, I mean, because obviously we're talking about really nice cars first.
Yeah.
You can develop it later, but right now you guys are, concerned with like supercars and very unique cars.
Yep.
So how is that going to add to the ownership?
Yeah, well, yeah, I think in general, NFTs just open up new ownership for anything. And for cars and what you're talking about, I think it does two things. One, it enables or provides ownership to people who necessarily wouldn't be able to own those fancy cars. You know what I mean? Because it's an offshoot of it. But then for those people who do own those cars, the brands can then use it to unlock or to provide new experiences or to authenticate experiences. So, for example, let's say you buy, I don't know, a Ferrari Cup car or something. I don't know how you buy one of those, but let's say you actually own the actual physical car. Then, in the future, you could have that car not only race it in real life here at the Autobahn, but then you could take that and the digital version, you could race in iRacing or you could race in a video game.
That's so cool.
That's just an experience of it. But essentially, those brands and those car manufacturers can use it to unlock or provide experiences all based on the ownership.
So you can take your physical digital car and then race it in iRacing.
Potentially, yeah, or
so
any
cool.
type of video game.
That is so cool.
What we're trying to do at MotoBloq is where first we're focused on owning the car and then providing experiences around it. So in our ideal world, you buy a car from MotoBloq and then you could take it to iRacing, you can take it to Gran Turismo, if you want, you could take it to Grand Theft Auto, whatever, you know what I mean? But you kind of own that car as you would in the physical world, but you could just take it to whatever, let's say, digital world you want to have fun
So if
with
the
it.
car blows up in Grand Theft Auto, is your NFT destroyed? That's the real question. Or, is it, you just press the reset button on it?
Yeah, no, that's a very good question. And there's some games like that where if you lose in the game and you're playing with your NFT, you lose the NFT for good. Now, we haven't thought that
So
far.
that's like racing for pinks.
Essentially.
Sort of. Okay.
Yeah, essentially. And it all comes down to what those people, who make the games, what they want the rules to be, and what the users sign up for. But for us, we just want to provide the car, and you do what you want with it.
That's so cool. Very interesting. So NFTs started, not started, I won't date myself, but something that is popular right now is artwork.
Yeah.
So people will create some sort of artwork that's unique,
Yep.
and they'll sell it. Where are they selling this? Like, is there a black market store for NFTs? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, I don't think necessarily black market, but it's essentially there's an eBay for it. There's online marketplaces for it, and there's different ones based on what type of NFT or what you want. But yeah, there's online marketplaces for it.
So you'll go to the online marketplace. You'll decide on what you want to purchase that vehicle or whatever it is, and then you gain ownership through a certificate, right?
Yeah. Well, essentially, when you buy it, it's everything in one. It's a certificate. It's the asset itself. It's all included in the NFT. You know what I mean?
So what if I want to buy one of your cars? So now we're buddies, and I say, hey, you know what? He has the Ferrari 296, and I want that car. It's a yellow car, and I have a red one, and I want the yellow one. Is it transferable? And how do I buy it from you?
Yeah, well, it's transferable if the owner wants to sell it. So on MotoBloq, what we do is you can buy cars, let's say new, like from the showroom, directly from us. And then we also have our own marketplace where you can then resell the cars or list cars for sale. Where then, of course, you buy it directly from a person. We're not involved in it. It's peer to peer, so it's direct. It's not like you have to go through a dealership. Kind of like you would on eBay. You know what I mean? You're buying direct from a party.
Okay.
Or you could just transfer it straight up if you know someone, and send it directly to them. So that's kind of the beauty of it. You don't need, and because of the technology, going back to, the certificate or everything that's included in an NFT, you trust that it is what it says it is. It's very, you can't really duplicate it because again, it's unique and it's digital. You really can't duplicate that specific one. It'd be like duplicating your fingerprint.
Right.
So with that, like if you buy a car on eBay, there's escrow services for expensive ones. There's PayPal. You essentially don't need that. because the technology enables, hey, once you send this money, then you get this thing back. So it kind of takes out the reason for a middleman.
So speaking of that, then cybersecurity is an issue. So how are these cars or vehicles or NFTs, how are they secured?
Again, that's all inherent to the technology itself.
To the blockchain.
To the blockchain,
Okay.
yeah. So that's what makes all this stuff possible, like cryptocurrency, NFTs, like security. It's a whole ledger, or it's a complete timeline of all the transactions that happen. That's essentially the main theme for a blockchain. And all that stuff's trusted the way it's architected. Now, we could get in the technicality of why it's trustworthy or why one would trust it, but essentially it's all inherent to the technology.
And it's basically because, from my rudimentary understanding of blockchain, it's because there are multiple individuals, hundreds and thousands, that are verifying each part of the ledger, right? And so those people who are crypto miners or blockchain, I don't know, certificate verifiers, whatever you want to call them, they are making sure that that ledger is correct. Like it said this at one point, now it says this. There was a transaction. We have record of the transaction, and now another person also has verified that. That's essentially, basically how it works.
Yeah, they call it decentralized, or at least it's distributed, where more than one person has access or a copy of the record.
Yep.
So given that's the case, then there's not a single point of failure, if you will, and there's not a single source of truth. It's like a shared source of truth. So, theoretically, yes, one could maybe corrupt every source or everyone who has that record, but practically speaking, that's not reasonable.
Right. So you're focused in on the car community, or cars in general. Why cars? Give me a little. I mean, I know tell the audience. I mean, I know why you chose that. You know a lot about it, but explain, how did MotoBloq come about? Like, where did you dream it up?
Yeah. So, well, first, why cars, and kind of my affinity for car culture it's kind of what I grew up in. Instead of going out boating or hunting, or my dad golfing, both my dad and my mom, they raced vintage cars. And just being from Joliet, we had the luxury or the ability to go to Route 66, the drag strip. Went to like demolition derbies, and then when the Autobahn got built, that was the first thing my parents were saving up for. It was like, oh my God, we could finally go back to racing. I was out of diapers and stuff, and I was self-sufficient kind of, where they can take some time back to themselves and go out racing. So from an early age, always around cars. Especially with both my parents being in it. And
so who do you take after more, your dad or your mom? Because I know both, and they're both very fast. I'm not going to say who I think is faster, but...
Yeah, well, so I like to think I take after my mom on the street, because she is a crazy driver. Like, to and from Chicago, I still haven't been able to beat her time.
I can't wait to show her this.
So I guess I'm kind of more aggressive on the street, but my dad is maybe a little more docile and calm, on the street. But when he gets on the track, he's a complete madman. He's like Jack Nicholson from The Shining.
He's super fast.
He is. So I like to think I'm my dad on the track. We've had a couple, we do a couple autocross and stuff like that. And I think I've won every one when I faced them. But as far as on the track, he's definitely more experienced.
Well, we're going to we'll verify that afterwards.
That's not on the blockchain.
So MotoBloq came about basically from your passion of not just motorsports, but also just cars in general.
Cars in general. And then after college, I ended up working at a big tech consulting firm. And by chance, I was in a little R&D shop or lab there. And we experimented with all the new technology at the time. Because it was our job to make sense of blockchain technology, make sense of AI, make sense of chatbots and all this other stuff. So then we can consult or recommend how big companies use it going forward. So I was kind of on the cutting edge of that, and just kind of by chance or by luck was part of 1 or 5 people who built this whole blockchain and kind of cryptocurrency practice at a relatively big consulting firm. So that's how I got introduced to the technology part.
Got it.
And then I got sick of making PowerPoints. I got sick of all the corporate BS. And I was like, I think there's a need for it, or essentially I wanted there to be a need for in the automotive world. But the more I started looking into it and researching, there definitely is a need, because the automotive world, they make a great advances in what they sell, as in the cars. But as far as around it, like I felt like the culture could also grow, and just the way they engage with brands, and also the way brands engage with their users, I thought was relatively outdated. You know what I mean? Because it's a very physical thing.
Right.
So they necessarily didn't have to be digitally focused. So I kind of saw that there's a gap for them to, hey, you could have more digital experiences. You could connect with brands, or with your brands connect with their owners and their fans and their consumers in a different way. And I saw kind of NFTs as being the first step, because it's the first, and as we have today, the only way to own something digital.
Right.
So I thought it was kind of a natural progression that these automotive brands and the whole industry can look to connect, to their users, to their fans, to their demographics in a different way.
Awesome. So this is going to be a question a lot of people ask. I'm dying to know, are people paying for this in dollars or in Bitcoin?
Yeah, so, well, one thing, kind of I would say a principle we had at MotoBloq is knowing the automotive community, and how we were talking before, it's naturally a kind of a do-it-yourself or hardworking community. We had to make it as simple as possible. Because today in the whole cryptocurrency, NFT space, it's still very jargon-filled. Even with us talking, we use this jargon.
Right.
And it makes it difficult for anyone to buy something. You know what I mean? So how we develop MotoBloq, how we display it, how we market it, we want to make it as easy as buying something on Amazon or Nike. So actually, to get to your point,
really refreshing.
Yeah. No, you can use your credit card. You can buy it through PayPal, or if you want to, use cryptocurrency, you can buy it through there directly. But you don't need to go up and set up your wallet and all this other stuff that I think, turns off people essentially.
It absolutely does. I mean, I don't know how many people out there have bought Bitcoin recently. I mean, it's gotten better, but I did, several years back when one of my gaming buddies, was like, "Oh, you got to buy this. It's fun." And I just bought some just, because he said it's going to be a cool thing.
Yeah.
And this was before the Bitcoin boom. It was one of the most difficult, challenging, confusing things I've ever done. You had to have all these different wallets and accounts with these, different companies, and you don't know who to trust or what's going on.
It's
and
nerve-wracking.
It is nerve-wracking. And you don't even ever know if, is this going to arrive in my bank account? Like, what's going to happen with this? I have since not purchased anymore, and it's been a long time, but I mean, I don't even know if I still have it or not,
Yeah.
And I had a couple.
Yeah.
And then when it started going like crazy in price, I was like, oh my God, this
Where
is
are
actually, yeah. But MotoBloq's not that.
No.
You focused on simplicity.
Yeah, simplicity and usability. And we essentially do all that for the user. So for the normal consumer and user, that's not a big issue. For like maybe your friend who, and like let's say the crypto natives or people who are diehard about it, they want it in their wallet, because that means,
right,
nothing can get in the way of it. MotoBloq doesn't own it; it's in their wallet, and we provide that option too. But we understand, especially as we're working with brands, they want to appeal to the masses, and we have to make it easy for the masses. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So with that said, you have MotoBloq is the platform,
correct,
where the cars are being traded. So now I'm going there, I'm buying a Porsche GT3, and I'm paying X amount of dollars, and I get the item. Can I then modify it or change it, change the colors, put some livery on it, like, make it fancy? Or is that the actual NFT I'm purchasing? Meaning, like, once I purchase it, it is that version. I can't change the version then. That would be a new NFT, right?
Well, so what you just explained, we will be able to do all of that. But what we do now is, you just buy that version of it. Mm-hmm. You buy that version of it, and you have the complete, digital render, the photos, and then you also have an AR model. So similar to, like, I always use Pokemon Go, that came out a couple years ago. Where everyone, is trying to snap stuff, or how you're able to view stuff on Amazon or IKEA, like in your apartment. That's all AR technology. So you have the ability to then take that car and use it in AR. And that's what MotoBloq has today when you buy the car. Now, what we're working towards, in great conversations we have with brands, is actually to do the customization. So not only you buy, the NFT has your MotoBloq car, that Porsche, but then, okay, let's say you want a body kit. Then you could buy that body kit, or you want a livery, and you can either design your own or maybe buy one from the marketplace. And then, again, all those brands, that's another way that they can not only monetize, but then connect with people and get their brands out there.
That's smart.
And on a technical level, it essentially doesn't create a new one, it just amends it. Or at least that's how we do it.
Yeah.
So it's like...
And you'll have a version history of that.
Yeah.
So that you can see, just like when you buy a real car, I bought this car and it had X, exhaust on it, and now it has a new exhaust. Like the original car was still, that car, but now this is what it is today.
Correct.
The only thing is you won't have a pile of parts sitting somewhere.
You won't. Which I think everyone that probably is listening to this can commiserate with.
Yeah. It's a problem, but that's a good thing. I like I like the ability to do the versions. In the gaming community, you got people that are changing skins constantly.
Yep.
It's one thing that the kids, they absolutely love doing.
Yep.
I have, I've got some kids, and the two daughters, they love changing the skins on these games, and they spend more time on that than playing the physical game.
Yeah.
Because it's all about, how you engage with the game, and that's part of it. It's a big part of it.
It is.
So that's interesting that you guys are thinking about that. How do you envision the NFTs, or I won't refer to it as NFTs anymore, I'm just going to refer to it as MotoBloq. How do you envision MotoBloq changing the car culture, or like let's call it the car collecting culture?
Yeah.
Because that's really kind of what you're aiming for right now as stage one, right?
Yeah, stage one. And over the future, just the car culture in general. But yeah, what we're aiming to do and kind of what we're aiming to change is kind of what we talked about earlier, is a different way to collect cars. So let's say for the guy who has the Ferraris, you know what I mean, and is fortunate enough to own the Ferraris and stuff like that, and the physical ones, he can now have a digital garage that he can have on his phone. He could, and also he could have a history of it, maybe of cars he's had in the past, but he doesn't have now. And kind of a way to have just an augmentation of stuff that he has already owned. But the big thing, and where we really see some of our strongest users, our most passionate users, are the people who maybe aren't in the situation to own a Ferrari, or not yet. Or, we're growing great in like South America, and also in India, in Asia, and a lot of times it's maybe younger kids. And again, instead of owning a Hot Wheel, they want to own a MotoBloq car because it's more interactive, it's more engaging, and it's their way of owning that, that Lamborghini Huracan or that Boss Mustang. And it opens up a whole new kind of world of car collectors that maybe wouldn't be there.
So it increases the pool of participants.
Yeah.
So now it's not just, a Lamborghini or Ferrari. I mean, you're talking cars that are in the hundreds of thousands and sometimes in the millions. And it's a small pool of individuals worldwide that can afford that.
Yeah.
So now you're bringing it to the masses. So I'm dying to know, how much does it cost? Everybody's going to ask this, and I know every car is different.
Yeah.
But let's just say my first car, Fiat 124 Spider, okay? The car is probably $20,000 in real life. What is that car going to cost me? Estimated. I'm not going to.
Yeah, MotoBloq, that'd be like a $20 car.
$20 car.
Yeah, and we range from cars as cheap as $5 to $10 all the way up to a couple $1,000s. And it's really based on, we try to put some math behind it, where it's based on the rarity of the physical car, and then also the current market value of the car. And we do a percentage of that, like a 1/10%. Or if it's really expensive, then we do, 1/100%. Again, so it's accessible, but there's some logic based in why it's priced that way. Okay. We don't just kind of wave our finger in there and it's like, okay, this car is worth $10,000. No, we don't do that.
Yeah.
It's all kind of, we try to make it at least 1-for-1 or proportional to the real world, like market value of it.
So if I had, say, the car that you took a picture of several months back, the Pagani Zonda that was here, and you created one of those, like that's a million plus car. what is that going to be? Is that going to be $1,000 car?
Yeah, it's gonna be like $1,300. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely more accessible to people.
Yeah.
And definitely
But still a lot of money.
it's still a lot of money, absolutely. But also kind of mirroring the baseball card community. I mean, there's baseball cards that are $1, $10, and then there's baseball cards that are, you know, $500,000 that are selling in these crazy auctions. So you kind of see it going in that direction, or at least sort of mirroring that in the collecting community.
Yeah, yeah. Well, especially when we release cars that are, you know, based off real world cars. You know what I mean? Now we're also working with some concept cars, and we're also working with car we have coming up for this NASCAR event is an AI generated car. So those are, you know, more, you know, kind of stem away from, let's say, being rooted in you know, physical like market prices or you know, the market value of them. But yeah, but for the most part, yeah, it would kind of go with the popularity of that brand, you know, the cult following of that brand or that model and stuff like that.
That is so cool. So the concept cars, I really like that idea, because that's something that when you go to the auto show as a kid, you know, you'd go through all the cars, and you'd go through the Nissan booth and Jaguar and Mercedes and BMW, but then you always got drawn to these really funky, unique concept cars. So I really think that would be a big draw.
Oh yeah.
And hopefully it is for you guys, because then people can look at something like that and like, I truly have something ultra rare, ultra unique. Nobody else has it. Hopefully somebody makes it one day in real life, and you know, you can match it. Speaking of matching, so can a person, or will they be able to eventually have their physical car? Meaning, if I have a BMW M3, you know, a special edition car that I absolutely love, and I bring it to you and say, hey, I want this car in NFT version. Will you guys be able to do that?
Yeah, we could definitely do that to now, and there's an evolution of how I would say self-service that gets. So now, if you want that, then you got, you know, reach out to us, and we'll schedule a time, and we have a team that can do that. But over the future, as our
that's not going to be $10 or $1,000.
No,
now you're customizing.
Yeah, essentially it's like a commission piece.
Got it.
But definitely something that's more doable than I think some would think. But over time, when we see like the phone technology improve, because right now your phone has like LiDAR and technology where you can 3D scan something. But as that improves, then of course we have on our roadmap where a user can then pay, you know, an extra fee or extra charge. They could upload that scanned model, and then we would be able to essentially automate or automatically render that.
That's so cool.
And then create the digital version, and then you have that. Yeah, because we want to get that, especially being car guys. You know, you have your own customizations. Maybe it's something, you know, maybe it's just the stance of it, or maybe it's the wheels. But yeah, they want their car.
That is a really cool concept. I hope that becomes an absolute reality, because also some people just fall in love with certain cars, and that becomes something that will, you know, go with them, you know, be with them forever. And having the digital version seems like just a natural progression.
Yeah. Well, and actually put both those points, the concept car and your own car together. I met you at I ran into you at Pebble Beach this year.
Yep.
And there's that Lincoln concept.
Yeah.
That they had, and
Crazy car.
Yeah, I think it was across from the Pagani booth, and I was like, wow, that's cool. It brought me back to like the kid days of like when I saw like the Cobra concepts and stuff like that at Ford, which I still wish they would make, but they didn't. But anyways, I literally took my phone out, I scanned it, it rendered it. I sent it to our render team, and then they made it. So yeah, kind of example of how we could do that. But we want to get to the point where anyone could do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And we'll get there one day.
Yeah.
So right now, tell us about the technology. I know you can't say everything about the technology, but how are you guys scanning these cars right now? Is it a handheld scanner, and then it goes into like a CAD system? Like, how is it happening?
Yes,
in the background.
So some of the cars, if they're more well known or not, you know, popular models, then we don't need, because they've already been scanned. So we don't need to do all that. But then if there's more unique cars or heavily custom cars, then we scan it. And for the best way, you do work with an actual handheld scanner, and those could get as complex or as high quality as you need them to be. But our ideal version is not to work off the phone.
So now
It's
you're
professional equipment.
scanning the exterior of the car, but then you're opening the doors, you're scanning interior. So when a person has their physical, NFT in front of them, they can basically manipulate the car, turn it in 3-dimensional space, and see into the car, open the hood. Like, explain what they can do with that.
Yes. So
how can they manipulate?
Yeah. So right now, essentially you can get any view angle that you want of the car, manipulate it. You can zoom into the car. As far as like opening the hood and opening the doors and seeing the engine bay, we don't have that yet, but that's something that we're actually close to releasing because we're, a big thing in the NFT world is called like metaverses, but essentially like a digital world. So like Fortnite, people will consider that like a digital world, or like Call of Duty, it's like a digital world or like a metaverse. But there's some that aren't necessarily like focused on games, just for like, I would say like exploring or like, let's say socializing in. And we're developing it where you could take your MotoBloq car and put it in there and then actually use it and interact with it like a real car. So open up the hood, the doors, drive it around, stuff like that. Put it in like your own little, so it's really just an augmentation of the physical world, just digital. We're not trying to overcomplicate it.
So do you foresee people eventually putting on like an Oculus and being in like a MotoBloq platform, MotoBloq metaverse, and driving around their cars and going to their virtual garage and things like that?
Well, people already are, and that's actually a huge request we had from our existing users, because there's already these metaverses out there, and like, hey, we want to have virtual car meets, like, and also because it's digital and stuff like that.
Virtual car meets.
Well, it could be global.
Awesome. Yeah, you have no boundaries whatsoever.
Yeah.
No police, no speed limits. I mean, literally,
you do all the takeovers you want.
That is so cool. That's very interesting. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. It's worldwide. Yeah. So and it gives those, again, going back to the community part, it opens it up, and then you get to see wild ideas or wild conversations and hear people's backgrounds. People who actually own the cars who want to own the cars and want to know more about them and how they are. Yeah. So it really connects, quite literally, the car community.
So how many cars are you up to today?
Yes.
That you guys have created?
So we've created 125 cars.
Oh, man.
125 cars.
When you first came to me and talked about this, it was 2 years ago?
Yeah.
And we sat in my office, and you talking about the idea, and I'm like, yes, this is awesome. Please tell me more. You had maybe 10 cars at the time? It was
I think
few.
It was less than 25. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. That's a lot. And so how long will it take, or does it take currently, for you guys from start to finish to create a car?
Yeah, it takes us less than 2 weeks.
Wow.
Usually we could do it in a week depending on what car it is and what we're doing with it. But yeah, we have a great team of render artists, actually ex-automotive render artists and designers as well. And they're awesome in what they do.
So you've obviously become faster and more efficient at creating the cars. What did it used to take you in the very beginning?
Yeah, well, we also had a smaller team in the beginning. So yeah, in the beginning is at least 2 weeks. You know what I mean? At least 2 weeks. But once we kind of have our process down,
it's still not that bad though.
It's not, and the technology gets better and better every day. So yeah, we again, like going back to that whole self-service thing, like we would like to get it down into days, if not instantaneous. But yeah, right now it's a pretty good production time. But we got 125 cars. We're really focused in the past year and a half of regular releases. Like we did release at least every week, if not every month. But now that we kind of have our initial release out, we're doing more of a target or focus releases on cars that could provide different experiences.
Okay.
And maybe partnering with different brands and different people in the car community. Again, to expand what the car can provide other than just what we already talked about.
So this seems like it would naturally get a lot of attention from the car manufacturers. I mean, they're going to want, yes, they can still do commercials, but less and less people, as everybody knows, are tuning into television, like in the traditional sense. Mm-hmm. They're tuning in on, iPads and phones and whatever. So ads and commercials are happening in a different space now. Yeah. They're happening in metaverse. They're happening on your phone and Instagram, wherever your eyes are today. Yep. So it seems extremely, it seems like very good timing that, like a Ford or Honda or somebody, Mercedes would want to hook up with you guys and say, oh yeah, we want MotoBloq to be basically controlling our media or our marketing. Maybe not controlling, that's the wrong word, but like being a part of it, because that's where everything is shifting.
Yeah. Well, definitely, and we've been in talks with some really big brands and automotive conglomerates. And actually, to your previous point about the concepts, yes, they saw it as a whole new way to engage into market in a way that's engaging than even your traditional social media. Because if you have a digital car, then going back to, you can interact with it, you can augment, do augmented reality, take a picture with it, which is only good for their brand because then promotes it even more.
Right.
But in addition, they were looking at doing that not only with new cars, but even trying to build brands or look how they can build followings on more nostalgic or what they would call like concept or graveyard brands. So, for example, like a Pontiac.
Right.
You know what I mean? A way to resurrect that, people engage with that, like classic GTOs, without having to physically bring that brand back. And same thing with like old, concept cars. You know what I mean? Like some of those wild, like turbine cars or like jet, inspired cars from like the 50s.
Right.
Like, okay, hey, we could bring that back, but we don't have to build the car. We don't have to go through all that headache of any of the physical logistics.
And it doesn't deteriorate. I mean, we both grew up in vintage cars, and our dads both, have been restoring cars since we were young. And I mean, at the end of the day, things rust. They deteriorate. They fall apart.
Yeah.
And even a car sitting, my dad would always say to me, like, the sitting is just as bad as driving. Like, you need to the car needs to move. Yep. It can't just be in the same spot all the time.
Yep.
You don't have to worry about any of that stuff.
No.
And you said graveyard, which just popped an idea in my head. So there are cars that have disappeared.
Oh yeah.
Because of the fact that nobody has been there to resurrect them or keep them going. We've lost cars.
Oh yeah.
And this is a good way to ensure that the cars will be around for generations and generations.
Yeah, yeah. And preserve some type of engagement with them, yeah.
That is a very cool, I don't want to call it concept anymore. It's just a very cool attribute to your new company. So the car community, so back to like, resurrecting or keeping the cars fresh and keeping them always around for generations. But going back to the car community and the vintage car community, we saw each other at Pebble Beach, and there were some amazing cars, ultra rare cars, and also cars that you haven't seen for, decades. And they're there in person, and it's just a thing of beauty.
Yep.
Are you going to start marketing to those types of car collection, I don't want to say auctions, but just meets or social gatherings to get these people who are car enthusiasts and passionate about the brands to scan cars and get them out there in your platform so that other people can enjoy them? Is that kind of like the goal right now?
So part of it is, and from our experience, going to those people, again, who already own those super ultra rare and unique cars, they kind of already have it. You know what I mean? So working with them directly is not necessarily where we want to focus, but we do want to focus on providing some type of access, whether it's to those cars or even to that experience to people who necessarily don't own those cars. One thing in Pebble Beach was eye-opening to me because for me that was the best, auto show, car gathering.
People watching.
People especially.
The hats.
The hats. I don't know. I've seen how many Louis Vuitton and Dior Gucci shirts. I was like, this is ridiculous. Not saying that's my style. It's definitely not. But yeah, no. Outside of that was, eye-opening on how cool it was. And even just walking in downtown Monterey or Carmel, like the cars you would see there or the parking lot.
It's
amazing. But I want
overwhelming. Actually.
It is overwhelming because I'm trying to go through my head on everything I've saw, and I couldn't even spit it out. But we want to provide not only access to the cars and be able to own those cars, but access to events like that. You know what I mean? Okay, so let's go to Pebble Beach if you own a certain MotoBloq car, or let's go to like a Monterey like car gathering during Car Week, or let's go to a track day at the Autobahn. Because even though we're talking about all digital, there's still an inherent physical part of the cars too.
Right.
And that's what's, that's a fun part. You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, over time, we will love to get all those classic cars in there. Now we're taking more of like a curated approach. If we'll work with strategic collections or strategic people who see our vision and want to work with us. But I think until we do that, then it's more or less providing experiences where they can at least see the cars in some way.
Mm-hmm. I like that. I like everything that you've said so far. One thing that keeps coming back to me is preservation. You have these cars that you want to preserve, not just the physical car itself, but as both of us know, in the vintage car world, it is highly dependent on how organized the caretakers of the cars are. So, for example, you might have a beautiful Rolls Royce that's been owned by the same family for a long time, and you go to buy the car, and they give you boxes and stacks of information about the car.
For British car, it's not enough though.
I know. And invoices, original invoices, documents, there's a ton of information. And unfortunately, in this industry, a lot of that gets lost because of the carelessness or the disorganization of the person or the caretaker of the car. So what I envision this is like a great way to have the car, but also have a way to store real data.
Oh yeah.
For the real physical car too, because that paper, it goes bad eventually, and like it deteriorates just like the car does, and certain things might get lost. Real good, effective car collectors will have libraries, like physical libraries of information that goes with that physical car. And then if they do sell it, eventually they pass along. The responsible thing to do is pass along everything that goes with that car. You still get Ferrari owners that will keep the original, toolkit. The leather toolkit because they just
luggage.
it was something, or the luggage. It was something that they wanted and they didn't want to pass along with the car. So you have all these cars that the car is beautiful, but it doesn't have the original luggage or the original toolkit, and people are asking, where is it? It's because it so and so kept it. Is that one of your goals for the future as well with MotoBloq?
Well, I think it could definitely it could definitely turn in that way, especially the preservation part, as how you kind of retrofit or retroactively put these iconic cars or cars that are meaningful to anyone, whether it's you as an individual or kind of for a community. To get to that point where those can be part of when they put their car on it. One thing that's cool today with new cars, to hopefully eliminate the need with it, is Alfa Romeo, I think with their tonal, like mid SUV or whatever the crossovers, whatever they're called now, where every service record from the minute you purchase it is all stored on a blockchain record. So essentially it's the same thing that we've been talking about. Yeah, so I think over time, from a business perspective, going back to, if I put on my corporate consulting hat, the major manufacturers, not only for automotive but for anything, those from the shirt you wear to the car you buy to the food you eat, there's going to be records of how that's produced and how it changes hands over time. So that's not where we're going to get in, but definitely an interesting thing that we think about for the cars that haven't done that, which there's millions of them.
Oh yeah.
So,
but you're at a great period right now in creativity. I love the idea. I love the name. MotoBloq is MotoBloq. MotoBloq. How did you come about that? Was that
just automotive and blockchain?
Yeah.
So that one wasn't too creative, but yeah.
I was gonna say, is that your mom? Because she's very creative and a designer.
She is.
So I wondered how much of that came from her. Did some of the design kind of attributes to this come from your mother, you think?
Well, I think always. I'll probably never give my parents, kids never give their parents credit. But no, I think a lot of the design and just essentially starting the company came from both my parents. Yeah, but the design to make it clean. I always go to my mom for, hey, do you think we're going through a rebrand right now? But what about this font and that font? I don't ask my dad, but I do ask my dad. But I think my mom wins in those conversations. But yeah, definitely, I think just naturally a lot of my parents come out in it.
Oh, that's great.
Yep.
That's awesome. So back to a little bit more about how it functions, how it works. I'm going to go onto your platform. I'm going to buy a car. I do the transaction, hit submit. I purchase.
Yep.
Credit card. Everything's fine. Everything's super secure.
Yeah.
And then I just retain this physical car.
Yep.
Now
digital car.
The digital. Sorry,
we're not giving up physical cars.
The physical NFT. Okay.
Yeah.
So I have that digital car, and now I want to add to my collection. Do I have garage space in MotoBloq?
Yeah.
So I have my physical Francesco's garage,
Yep.
and there are all my cars
Yep.
sitting there.
Yep. Yeah.
And I don't need lifts.
No, you don't need.
So I can store as many cars as I want.
You just need an internet connection.
That is amazing.
That
is amazing. So I think that is you won me over right there, because physical space is very, very difficult right now. And the building across the street, I mean, the studio we're in right now is just a testament to us running out of space.
I know.
Crazy.
Yeah, when I said it looks like you're taking over the side of the track.
So you have unlimited space, unlimited ability to create cars and people to purchase them. If you have a physical car on the site today, right now, and I want to buy that, but you only have a few of them, right? Because they're like fingerprints.
Yep.
Is there like a waiting list? Can I, like, if you were decided we're only building 10, and I'm not one of the lucky, drawers of that, how do I get a car? Do I bid from one of the owners, and do you guys help with something like that, or?
Yeah, you definitely could. Yeah. So essentially, the price and the quantity that we set, that's the price and quantity it's always going to be. That's also part of the technology. We can't modify it after the fact, which is good. That's why people buy them, because it's unique. But what you can do, it's say that it's a model sold out or release is sold out. What we do is we can notify you. There's again, going back to your garage, you could say, hey, or if you're looking on our showroom, kind of where you buy the cars initially, brand new from us, you can say add to my wish list or add to my wait list. And the minute that thing goes on sale, then it notifies you.
Okay.
Also, we notify every owner of it the minute someone adds it or favorites it. So then they know, hey, there's a demand or there's a market, someone may buy this. Maybe I want to sell it now.
So you have your own marketplace within
Correct.
MotoBloq? Okay.
Yep. Correct.
That's exactly, I forgot the word. That's what I was looking for, the marketplace. So I can purchase a pre-owned car, but I don't have to worry if the guy smoked in the car or anything like that.
Nothing.
Because nothing can happen to this car.
Be in Chicago, you don't have to worry if it's stolen.
Yeah. I mean, literally, it is just a digital car that I can have and I can sell in, 10 years from now, and I can maybe make some money.
Yeah.
That's a great thing. But I don't have to worry about anything else.
Yeah, correct.
That's awesome. And with fuel prices today, we don't have to worry about any of that either.
Yeah.
Because now you guys are just generating these digitally. There is a lot of talk about how blockchain crypto mining specifically creates or causes or uses a lot of energy. Is MotoBloq, is that in that same realm, or is your technology different?
So going back to how we want to make MotoBloq usable and easy, for us to do that, we actually put it on our own blockchain network. So essentially, it's very efficient because it doesn't have to go through and help work or validate all these big public blockchains, which is what people refer to with the high energy consumption. So just naturally, it's as much energy as essentially your computer or like a basic data center. So it's a small like personal data center. So no, it's very efficient. It's not kind of brought into all that. But then if I take a step back, now Bitcoin mining, crypto mining, the blockchain definitely came under fire for its energy consumption. But one thing I would tell people is it's still relatively early, and just like car engines or any type of thing that produces energy or uses energy, it's going to get drastically efficient over time. Especially now, the way it's computed and computing power, that's the thing that gets efficient the most.
Right.
And then I would also say you might want to look at it relative to all the other compute power out there. So if you think crypto mining's bad, you should look at the data centers that Facebook has, or now Meta.
Oh, I could only imagine.
Or Microsoft.
Yeah.
The data centers that's powering your Instagram, your Twitter, is 10 times, not I don't know the actual numbers, but is significantly consumes more energy than running essentially a world computer, which is what a blockchain is.
Yeah, when you look at those technologies like Oculus, I became an Oculus geek for a while, and I was playing these games where you run around and collect things, and it's so cool. But when you think about being able to interact in a metaverse or whatever you want to call it like that, and it be with almost no lag or very little, there's people all over the world playing those same games.
Oh yeah.
Like the amount of data, upload and download that's happening simultaneously with milliseconds of delay, if anything, is just mind-boggling. So yeah, I would envision that those data centers would be massive suckers of energy.
Well, yeah, even with the sim racers, I mean, those it can't be your average, Dell computer from Best Buy. I mean, it has to be like a gaming computer because it needs that power to produce those graphics, to produce that experience. So
that's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna just mention a couple of things that are going to be happening with you coming up. NASCAR is coming up.
Yes, sir.
NASCAR is coming to Chicago, and it's a big deal for Chicagoans, shutting down the city and bringing the stock cars to the streets of Chicago. You're going to be presenting MotoBloq, and you're going to be having another talk with some car collectors.
Yeah.
Myself, I'll be there.
Yep.
We've invited the gentleman from Mouse Motors. That's a big Chicago, local car collecting community.
Love it.
And we're going to be talking about MotoBloq and about car culture, where it's going, the direction. And you're going to be doing that at NASCAR. So explain a little bit about that, because you're going to be doing something special there.
Yes. So kind of going back to how we want to do, connect more physical experiences or provide more usability or more things to do for people who own MotoBloq cars. So for the NASCAR race in Chicago, we're actually making our own NASCAR concept car that we'll release. So a digital car that we'll release on MotoBloq that people can buy. And when they buy that, then they enter in the chance to kind of be with the MotoBloq team in this with all the events we have leading up to NASCAR. So the first thing is the party and panel discussion at the Soho House. So it gets you access to that, gets you into essentially our happy hour and our panel to discuss and to meet other car people of Chicago. And then it gets you a track day at the Autobahn, where they'll get taken around in our MotoBloq Viper, maybe some radicals, I don't know.
That's cool.
And then, of course, event tickets to the actual NASCAR race. So, but again, all that can be traced back to the actual person who buys the car and the ownership, and that car then unlocks all those experiences for you for that entire week.
That's such a unique, creative way of doing hospitality. Basically,
yeah,
I
really.
mean, it's such a creative way.
Yep.
I definitely see that happening more in the future, and you're paving the way. That's awesome. How many of those NASCAR or concept cars are you going to build? Do you know yet?
Yeah, it'll be under 50, so it's going to be a select amount, and then it'll be a raffle to see who actually wins from that. And the car will change as well. So based on what experiences you go to or what you win with that car, then the car, because it's all kind of, it could be dynamic. You know what I mean? Because it's all digital. So
that is so
we're trying to make it as engaging as possible. And like you said, show different ways on how they can be used. It doesn't have to just be something that lives digital and only does digital stuff.
Right.
You own a digital thing, but it can unlock much more.
So you're going to go to some physical events. You'll probably go to some car shows this year as well.
Yeah. Well, you
have
have
a Beach again?
I hope.
Yeah.
And you have a big one coming up here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got a couple of big events happening. June is a huge month for Autobahn, and we've got a very rare vintage car / race car experience that's coming up in June. And then we have Road America for IndyCar and for and Radical Cup. But we definitely want you guys to be involved in all that. We're going to throw the MotoBloq stickers on all the cars, and and make sure that we represent you and hope to get the word out there. We'll put the website and everything below in the how do you say that? In the links below, and make sure that people know how to get to you. But basically, essentially right now you're still in the building phase, but you have a product.
Yeah.
You've got 100 and plus cars out there. People can buy them. I'm going to go and
We
physically
got
go
thousands
on
of
today
users,
and buy
yeah.
a car.
Yeah.
I'm going to put my name in there for the NASCAR concept car. We are going to be scanning a Radical, and we're going to be putting a Radical in there. Really cool stuff coming up. One question that keeps coming up to me is, what comes after this?
Yeah.
I mean, seems like it's the beginning stages.
Yep.
But like the possibilities are endless.
Yeah.
So what do you focus on? I mean, like, are you just taking all the ideas and creating kind of like a schedule of, this is what we want to do, and then prioritizing? Like, how does that happen for you?
Well, yeah. Well, from a product perspective, we definitely have an internal product roadmap. That's from 3 months to years out to even what's our end goal. And then we always balance that with what the users are saying. So the users are always going to come back and say, "Oh, I wish I could do that. I wish I could do this." So it's definitely a balance of the two. But we have let's say a product strategy, and then the short-term roadmap is, of course, always influenced by the user feedback, by what customers are saying, stuff like that. At least that's how we manage it.
So that was going to be one of my questions: is what kind of feedback have you received from the current owners of cars now?
Yeah. So it's been a good mix, and that's kind of why we're doing the NASCAR thing, because some of them are like, "Hey, this is great. I want to meet more MotoBloq people in real life. I would love if there's other MotoBloq events. Whether we have a huge user base in London or in England. We have also people in America as well. Like, is there going to be a gathering? Is there going to be some event where we all go to? Can my car get me into something like that?" Then in addition to, hey, like, I want to take my car and put it in this metaverse. Like, I want to customize it. Like, when can I add my livery? When can I add some body kits? So those have kind of been the two camps. Is, hey, like, we want to use MotoBloq more for a thing that we can experience and kind of grow like a physical community and have physical experiences. And then, hey, like, we want to do more, let's say what we could do now with cars, but like more car customization, more digital things with the cars. So that's very kind of broad groups, but that's what the users have said. It's been kind of a dead split. So which is why we're doing the NASCAR thing. And I think that's where it goes, especially from a business. The brands are going to have different, that we want to work with in the future. They're going to have different, strategies as well. I think both physical and digital, because the cars may change. They may not be all gas in the future, or whatever it may be, but there's still going to be a physical element to it. So we're always going to have some balance of that, and our users are saying the same thing. So
I'm assuming that when you become a user or become a buyer, you don't just buy one car. Do you have the data on that? Like, is how many people have multiple cars in your user group?
On average, there's 3 cars. We have some users with 40, 50 cars.
A family of 3 cars, 3 digital cars.
But it's great. Yeah, it's great, and people love them. Like, we have a Discord, we have a Twitter, and people are always showing them off. They always go to car shows. They always, one guy was at the Peterson, where there's an actual Koenigsegg 1-to-1. He actually owned a Koenigsegg 1-to-1 on our platform, and cool. he took a picture with his car and the physical Koenigsegg 1-to-1 and loved it. The whole.
So I'll be able to go to a car show and grab my phone and be like, "Here's my digital car."
Yeah,
that's so cool. I'm doing that today.
I actually did that at the Lamborghini house at Monterey. And I was the CEO of Lamborghini walked in, Stefan.
Yeah.
And it was real in the morning, and I introduced myself. He's like, "Oh, are you a Lamborghini owner?" And I was just kind of being maybe dorky, but the Lamborghini LM02, one of my favorite cars of all time. Yep. I'm like, "Oh yeah, like I have all vintage Lamborghinis." He's like, "Oh, let me see." And I pulled that up, and he just kind of chuckled and was like, "Oh my God."
That's awesome.
But then walked away because I think he just arose, and he had a lot more important things to do than talk to me. Definitely the ability to kind of have fun with it and show it off how you want.
That is so cool. Well, I appreciate your time today. I know there's a lot more questions and things we want, but I don't want to do everything today because we have a talk coming up. So, and I want to get some input from Mouse Motors. I want to get some input for some of your users. I want to go through the user experience now. Awesome. That way, then I have my own take on it, and then I'll be able to give you my feedback. But thank you, James, so much for coming on the show, and thank you for explaining MotoBloq. And like I said, we'll have all the information for everybody, so that you know where to go, how to buy a car, and how to become a member of MotoBloq.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
You.